Hi there, this is Jacqueline with the Fable Tree. This week's tutorial uses only Illustrator to make a beautiful but simple snowflake ornament. Now you can repurpose the snowflake that you make in this lesson in several different ways, but I'm going to show you two ways to use it right now. So the first thing we'll do is come to our rectangle tool. You may have a different shape here, in which case just click and hold it to select what you need. All right, I'm going to make a little rectangle here and come over. I'm going to deselect the link here so that my width and height proportions don't stay connected. So I want 0.15 inches wide and I want about 3 inches high. Okay, I want to come up and deal with my fill and stroke. Right now we're going to work with a fill and no stroke. So I'm going to select black so it shows up nicely and 0, none stroke. Okay, that's very important. And we will at the very end switch this over to a cut line, but just for visualization purposes, we're going to leave it like this for now. Okay, then I'm going to select a, let's see here, 0.15 by 1 inch rectangle. All right, so the same width, but a different height. I'm going to select my little short rectangle and come over here to this little angle bit and just type in 45. So it just shifts it to a 45-degree angle. I'm then going to copy it using, on my Mac, Command-C. On your PC, it would be Control-C, and then Command-V. You can also do it from up here. So copy and then paste. And once I have pasted it, I want to go ahead and flip it. Now, I have this transform panel open, so I'm going to flip it horizontally. If you don't have that, go to Object, Transform, Reflect, and you'll be able to select it from there. At this point, I'm going to come up here and place it as carefully as I can. Let me just zoom in and check it real quick. It doesn't have to be super, super perfect, but you want it to be really as aligned as possible. And you'll see that the little bottom bit overlaps. Select both of those by clicking and dragging, and use your Pathfinder panel to click to unite. If you don't have that panel open, it'll be under Window, Pathfinder. Okay? At this point, I am going to center it right here, and I want the top of the V shape to be just a little bit underneath, not quite flush with the top here, just a little further down. I'm going to copy and paste, same method as before, and just kind of eyeball it for now. Okay, so that's fine. And if you want to make very sure that everything is centered, you can select it all and use your Align panel to do the horizontal align center. If you don't have that available to you, no big deal. Come up to Object, Align, Horizontal Align Center. Okay, I hope you're getting the sense that there are lots of ways to do everything that we do in Illustrator. Okay, at this point, if you are happy with this part of your snowflake, you can go ahead and use Pathfinder to unite. Now I'm going to copy it, paste it, use my Transform panel to flip vertically. Okay, Object, Transform if you don't have that open, all right? And then I'm going to align it right here. I'm okay if it overlaps just a little bit, and I'm just going to use Horizontal Align Center to make very sure that it's perfectly aligned. And then use my Pathfinder panel to unite it. So now we have this strange little 2-arrow situation, and I'm going to copy, so Command-C or Control-C, but instead of just pasting anywhere, I'm going to edit paste in place, which pastes it right on top of where we were before. Okay, so wherever it was that you copied it, it'll paste it right over that. And now I'm going to come over to this little angle bit and rotate it 60 degrees. And then I'm going to edit without copying anything else because you already copied it, paste it in place again. And this time I'm going to rotate it 120 degrees. Wow, look at this. We have a snowflake. Now this is the beginning of our snowflake, and you can, of course, customize it as you see fit from here as well. I'm going to do a little star shape kind of thing in the middle, and I'm going to make my star not from the star tool, although you could, but actually from the polygon tool. I'm going to create 2 triangles, and I will actually use this with no fill, but yes, a stroke. And I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm going to flip this triangle and just kind of make sure that they are kind of overlapped pretty evenly. Okay, and you can certainly use the view snap to grid, view show grid, view snap to grid to make that super, super perfect, but I'm pretty comfortable eyeballing it right now. Once you have a star shape that you like, go ahead and Pathfinder Unite it, and then I'm going to rotate it 30 degrees. All right, now what I'm going to do is drag it over here, and this is way too small, isn't it? So I'm just going to click at one of these side, not the corners, although I guess you could do that too, and Shift, hold down Shift, click, and drag it until it looks about the right size for you. Okay, so that looks decent to me. No, it's not perfectly placed or anything. We're just kind of gauging a size thing here. And then I'm going to come up to Object, Path, Offset Path, and I think, let's see here, do we want it to be quite so big? That looks okay. Let me see if I do a negative offset instead. We'll make it a little smaller. That's too small. Okay, so I'm going to stick with a 0.15 inch offset. The reason I'm choosing 0.15 inch is because that is the width of all of these little spindles, and I want that to look consistent. I don't want it to look too heavy, if that makes sense. Okay, so once you're happy with what it looks like, go ahead and hit OK. Now you've got these two little bits here, and we want to make this one shape instead of two shapes. Okay, right now it's two shapes. So go ahead and switch these back to fills, click this inner one, come to Object Align, bring to, Object Arrange, bring to front, just to make sure it's on top. Click both, and then in your Pathfinder panel, click to minus front. So what that did was it subtracted the smaller star from the larger star. And now, instead of this being two separate stars, it's one filled star. Okay? And I know that that might not seem like a really big difference, but it is when it comes time to unite this with the rest of our snowflake. Okay? And let's take a minute and select all of our snowflake spindles here. And you'll see these little blue lines in the center that indicate that this has not yet been united. Let's go ahead and hit Unite. Now what we can do is select this, use our Align tool, or come up to Object Align, and Horizontal Align Center and Vertical Align Center. And now we have a really beautiful snowflake. Okay, and you can, of course, continue to customize it. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as it is. I think let's just take it one step at a time. Go ahead and Pathfinder Unite, and now you have it all in one shape, which is lovely, right? And you can click to swap the fill and stroke, and this is how it would cut out. So this is just your basic snowflake. And you can use this motif over and over again in lots of different ornaments. But I want to show you again how to make two versions of an ornament with this one snowflake. Okay. First of all, let's take a look at how big this is. Come over to your panel here, and you'll see that it's 5.5 inches wide and 6 inches tall, and that's big for an ornament. So I'm going to click to maintain the width and height proportions, and I'm just going to make it, I think, 4 inches tall. See? And so this is a much more reasonable or much more normal size for an ornament. This is the size of an ornament that I recommend for a standard size Christmas tree. If your Christmas tree is gigantic, make it bigger. Okay? And now you'll see that once we resize this, I'm a little nervous about how thin these are and that they might scorch a bit. If you're not worried about that, great. So I'll show you how to thicken this up without having to go back and redo everything. Object, Path, Offset Path, and let's just do a 0.02. See, and that's a little beefier, right? And so make sure that you select the whole thing. So deselect, select everything, and Pathfinder Unite. Okay, so that's one way of dealing with that. Now we have a nice sturdy snowflake, and we're going to just copy paste it because we're going to do two versions. And what we can do to just make very sure that we know exactly how wide this new rectangle is now that we adjusted it is just draw a little rectangle over it, aligning it with both sides of our new shape. And we know that the width is 0.1407. So I'm going to just select that and copy that number. Okay, you don't have to be that intense about it if you don't want to. But what I'm going to do here is add a circle frame around this one, and I want it to be that wide. Okay, so I'm going to start with a circle that is 4 inches by 4 inches. Okay, and let's just see if this fits as nicely as I hope it does. Oh, how beautiful. Okay, So I can click and just make sure that it's all touching and it's all nice. And then we're going to do, of course, an offset path, and we're going to use that number that we copied. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, and that looks nice. All right, we're going to repeat our little star trick here. We can move this off so that it's more clear what's happening. Swap the fill and stroke. Go ahead and click this inner one, object arrange, bring to front, and then minus front. Okay, and that, again, that makes it one circle instead of two separate circles. And at this point, you can horizontally and vertically align them in a centered way. And there you are. Now, I'm noticing that these little arrow points are pretty close to, they're pretty close to the edges, and I think it would actually look nicer if it were merged with that frame. So you have another option, which is to create your little 4x4 inch circle and do an offset. So an object path, offset path, and instead of that first number that we used, do a negative version. And so that way it's going to the inside. Okay, and now switch the fill and stroke, minus the front, and when we align it all, it's going to be actually a little too small, so let's nudge it up a little, maybe 4.1 inch. And there you go. Okay, see, I think it looks nicer with these overlapping. If you disagree, don't do it, okay? This is your ornament. You get to make it whatever you want. And now I'm going to select that, Pathfinder, Unite. So we have this snowflake in a circle, and we have the snowflake on its own. However, we need to add a way to hang this, right? And so you can certainly just do a, let's see here, maybe like a 0.2 by 0.2 circle. And then come up to an object path, offset path, and in this case, you'll want to do not negative, but again, I recommend that you keep that same number that you had before. All right, and pull this one, so pull the center one, object arrange, bring to front, and minus front. And now, this is just the most simple way that you can do it, okay? You can, let me go ahead and just copy paste it. So now you can Pathfinder Unite after you align, Pathfinder Unite, and your snowflake ornament is good to go. Okay, now this one over here, you could certainly also do this and it will come out something like that. But you can also add another little level of cuteness to it by adding a small rectangle and rounding the corners. Okay, so let's zoom on into this, and you'll see once you zoom in, you've got this little dial that you can kind of pull in. So I like a nice rounded rectangle here. You'll want to move it down enough that the roundedness doesn't start to show on the bottom part, because that just looks a little strange. And then you can align this. Ooh, and that looks like a little more like a regular ornament, right? And you'll want to select it all and horizontally align center so that it looks really nice. And then select it all, Pathfinder Unite, and now you have two beautiful snowflake ornaments. And if you cut this and it's more singed than you want, you can play around with your machine settings, or of course you can just come back and add another offset to thicken it up even more. Before we save this as an SVG, we need to go ahead and shift this, or switch these fill and stroke so that these are cut lines instead of engraving lines. All right, and now they are ready to go. You'll go File, Save As. I'm gonna go Snowflake Star Ornaments, and I always save as Adobe Illustrator so that I can work with that file later, and then save it as an SVG. Make sure it's SVG 1.0, make sure responsiveness is off, and you are good to go. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more about file design, I will link to my 5-week file design course called FileMakers Academy, where I walk you through from very simple file design tutorials, just like these, all the way up to really, really complex ones. Until next week, I'm Jacqueline with the Fable Tree.